Who will be QB1 in Cleveland this season? Mary Kay Cabot going to give us her thoughts from Indy. A Ravens rebrand, a new era in Baltimore. Kyle Van Noy joins us to break it all down. And former big leaguer Kevin Kiermaier going to join us to help preview the MLB season. Yahoo Sports Daily starts right now. Caroline Fenton, I'm Jason Fitz. It's Yahoo Sports Daily for the next 2 hours. We're rack stacked to pack to get you caught up on everything you need to know as it was a big night in the NBA. We got a lot that we're going to get to there. We've got a lot to get to in general. It is wild, but we will start with what we saw last night, Caroline, because we had what some might call an NBA Finals preview. Is it possible? The best in the East versus the best in the West. The battle here, and Detroit comes out the victor 124-116 at home against OKC. What do you make of it, Caroline?
I do believe that there will be some Detroit's the best team in the league. Detroit, it has a very clear path to the finals. And look, all of those things I'm not going to say are true. All of those things aren't a crazy overreaction to last night's win. I mean, OKC is the standard. The Oklahoma City Thunder have been the standard in the NBA over the last couple of years. Oklahoma City is that team that everyone, not just in the West, but in the NBA, is chasing. Detroit is trying to prove that it's not just the best team in the East, but it can contend with the best teams in the West. We've talked about this. The West is so much more dominant and top-heavy than the East is. So, look, a win over OKC, yes, makes you feel good. But I do wonder, if you're a Detroit Pistons fan waking up today, how good do you really feel? How good do you really feel about an 8-point win over the Thunder's B team? Look, Cade Cunningham, double-double. Jalen Duren, double-double. Two massive performances from your two best players and your two stars in Cade Cunningham, who is probably right now the betting favorite, or one of the, at least, betting favorites to win MVP. Like, great, you get massive performances from your best players. You always are going to feel good about that. But then you give up 30 points on 14 shots to Jalen Williams. Not that Jalen Williams. Not that one. The other one. The one that doesn't crack the starting five whenever OKC is at full strength. So sure, yes, you beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, but you beat OKC by just 8 points without SGA, without Chet Holmgren, without Isaiah Hartenstein, without J-Dub, without 5 of their top 6 leading scorers. So a win is a win, but I don't know if this is the brand of win that's going to solidify Detroit as one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, all this win did was solidify that OKC is just that damn good to me. And I know I just keep falling back to that. To your point, when you're minus your 5 best scorers in a game and you're in Detroit and you're taking on the best team by record now in the entire NBA on their home court, minus your 5 best scorers per game, and you still come into this thing. They had the chance to make this a 3-point game with about a minute and a half to go. Like, I was sitting here saying, how the hell does this keep happening? How is it that this OKC team, which, by the way, looked just absolutely mismatched at the rim, they didn't have any size to handle anything. It was funny. I mean, it was genuinely funny watching how many different times it was like Detroit would just get a nice block, shove it down the other end, quick transition points. Like, OKC was so outmatched at different times, and they were still in this game all the way to the end. This is the whole reason I keep saying it over and over and over again. If your goal is to win the East, congratulations for all of these teams that are talking about winning the East. Congratulations, golf clap to you. You're going to have a shot at winning the East. But if your goal is to win the Larry O.B., you ain't doing it. Yeah, let the kids celebrate it. Cool, you won your conference. But my God, that version of the only time that I'm going to be worried about Oklahoma City is if they're incapable of actually putting a team on the floor. They have been so wildly injured, and they still did that. They've been so wildly down, and they still did that. Detroit gets the win. But for me, this only cemented more how confident I am that the best of the East is just not competitive with the best of the West. That being said, did we get an NBA Finals preview here? Because we do have the best of both of these sides, and now the Pistons have put themselves in a great situation moving forward. Is this, in your mind, surefire NBA Finals preview?
No, of course not. I mean, we have to trust the process of the NBA postseason just a little bit more. We as fans have to at least hope that there's more razzle dazzle in the postseason than the number one team in the West and the number one team in the East coming out of their respective conferences and finding themselves in the NBA Finals. I mean, I think the Pistons showed clear and obvious warts last night. Look, OKC scored half of their points off of threes. They attempted 49 3-pointers last night. Now, they only made 18 of them, but that was OKC's game plan for a reason. It's because Detroit struggles to defend from beyond the arc. So if Detroit runs into, I don't know, the Boston Celtics, that's going to give them some fits in the postseason. I think that the way that the New York Knicks want to play is going to give that defense some fits. So, no, I'm not going to say definitively that just because the Pistons look like the best team in the East right now and are ranked as the number one seed in the East right now, that they are surefire, bound to get into the NBA Finals. And same thing with OKC. You bring up a very fair point that, look, if you're OKC, you're kind of feeling yourself. You feel as good as you possibly can after a loss because you were still incredibly competitive with a team that a lot of us view as legitimate finals contenders, with one of the biggest stars in the league right now who has some of the best odds to win MVP, and you did it without 5 of your top 6 leading scorers, and you were in this game. Like, OKC had a legitimate shot at winning this game. They were incredibly competitive with Detroit. So I think if you're OKC, like, you feel as good as you possibly can this morning, but that still doesn't give me a whole lot of hope about the longevity of this team if they don't start getting healthier. If they don't get, they're so injury ridden, they're so bitten by the injury bug that if that continues, or if you continue to have a Chet, a J-Dub, an SGA on the sidelines, if this injury bug continues to bite OKC throughout the remainder of the postseason, then you can't bank on OKC to find themselves as the team coming out of the West. So there is at least fair enough reason for concern for both of these teams. But with all of that being said, if it is these teams in the end, I'm not going to be surprised, but I'm not going to stand up here today on February 26th and say, that was a finals preview. No.
I think part of this to me is that there are a bunch of teams bunched in the East together that I don't think are necessarily world beaters, but they're all pretty good and they could all take each other down. And there are a few teams in the West that I think are world beaters and they can all take each other down. If OKC can't get healthy, they're going to have a hard time with a team like Denver who went in last night. The Nuggets absolutely go in last night and just hammer the Celtics. There is no nice way to say, there are no nice adjectives to say what we saw last night. 103-84 in a game where, man, as good as things have gone at times for the Celtics, sometimes we forget how good that man is. Like, there was a great play last night where Jokic had the ball poked away. It should have been a steal. He manages to recapture the ball and just turns around and does this nice little turnaround 3. Like, and it just hits nothing but the bottom of the net. And I just looked at this and I thought, God, sometimes we forget that Jokic is out here just playing with this food until he gets to the playoffs. He doesn't give a damn about the regular season. And this is how good Denver can be. But also concerning for the Celtics, right? Because if you're the Celtics and you're sitting here and, man, you get beat 103-84, you get some of those good feels that you've had and they go away a little bit because Jaylen Brown was there. It just didn't matter. Like the Celtics were as healthy as they can be right now without Jason Tatum, and it didn't matter. So, Caroline, does Tatum, who we now know is scrimmaging 5-on-5, does Tatum need to come back for the Celtics to have a shot to win a championship?
Before I get to my Celtics thoughts, I don't think there's a single player in the NBA who has made us more accustomed to greatness than Nikola Jokic. Like, anytime LeBron does quite literally anything, we're like, oh my God, LeBron! And look, it's LeBron. Okay, I get it. I understand. But Jokic had 30, 12, and 6 last night. And it's just like, oh, well, just another day of work for Jokic. And it's like, just because he can do this any given night doesn't make it any less thrilling and exciting. Like, we are witnessing a player that can take over a game on, incredibly insane levels. And we're just not even that fazed by it because we've become so used to it, which I think is unfair to Jokic and unfair to this Nuggets team as we talk about the top of the West. We talk about OKC. We talk about the San Antonio Spurs, rightfully so. But Jokic single-handedly can win Denver a championship. So I feel like we need to maybe give credit where credit is due here with Jokic and stop just overlooking some of the greatness that we can see on any given night. But on the Celtics side of things, Look, I don't think that that game last night was a massive indictment on the Celtics, but does Jason Tatum make up for a 20-point deficit? Maybe. Like, maybe he does. I can absolutely acknowledge that. I just do have questions about the dynamic of Jason Tatum coming back. Like, the Celtics have a good thing going, right? Like, they're in this rhythm. What does adding another piece into the rotation do to that rhythm, due to that energy, due to that vibe? How does Jaylen Brown feel about that? Well, Jaylen Brown publicly is going to say, we're excited to have Jason back. Anything that we need to do to win, blah, 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 blah. He's going to say all of the right things. But I do wonder if Jaylen Brown is kind of feeling some type of way about Jason Tatum coming back likely for the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I constantly remind people that we live in a video game society, but real sports aren't video games for a reason. So as much as I love the concept of we simply plug and play and we put Jason Tatum right back in and everything's going to be great, this is where I defer to people that played the game. And the number of guys that I know and I've talked to and I've heard speak about the fact that, that played in the NBA, the fact that when you've taken this much time away and now you're going to step back out on the court, well, number one, you've got to get your rhythm back. That's going to take a minute. Mm-hmm. Number two, everybody else around you has got to be conscious of the fact that you're getting your rhythm back while they're also trying to figure out how to work you into what they do. The Celtics have certainly had this incredible season compared to what we thought they would be this year. And I think it's okay to acknowledge that, and okay to acknowledge that Jason Tatum, the star, would obviously make them better, while also acknowledging that, man, that's an adjustment period. It's going to be an adjustment period for Jaylen. It's going to be an adjustment period for the entire roster. And the way the ball flows, the movement, the way they move as a team, these are all things that will be adjusted in some way. Now, yeah, they all have a ton of history with Tatum. So maybe it's like riding a bike and it comes together quickly, but maybe it doesn't. And all of this presumes that Tatum, who in fairness was injured in mid-May of last year. So we're nowhere near 12 months at this point. We're 9 months. So we've got to presume that he's going to come back and he's going to be healthy. They're also going to have to work him back into game shape, which means you've got gaps in every game where suddenly Tatum's in, Tatum's out, Tatum's in, Tatum. These feel like the sort of things that afterwards we always talk about as a disruptor. I love the concept of just dropping Jason Tatum in and suddenly the Celtics find themselves in the NBA Finals. Like, I love that idea because I think it's such a great Disney storybook ending to this whole ride for a player that I can't wait to see back on the court. I just struggle with the logic in my brain. I struggle to see how it's going to be that easy.
And I feel like we have to acknowledge that, look, we understand that Jason Tatum is a certified superstar. Understand that Jason Tatum is the face of that franchise for a reason. Understand that Jason Tatum makes every single team in the NBA better. Acknowledging that this team, when they won a championship, was fueled by Jason Tatum. 1,000% understand that and feel the need to acknowledge that. But also in that same breath, we saw this with all of the construction, or at least attempted construction, of some of these super teams. We're seeing it right now with the Lakers. And when you say, oh, Luka and LeBron on the same team, it sounds great in theory and it sounds really fun on paper, but it's not working. We're 1 year into the Luka and LeBron marriage, and it's clunky and it's awkward, and all they can do is score a whole bunch of points, but they can't play defense, and LeBron and Luka just feel clunky with one another, that you don't play basketball on paper, that you don't make these marriages happen just, by snapping your fingers like that. And I know that the marriage of Jason Tatum and the rest of the Celtics team, it's not like it's anything new. But what it is adding something different in the most critical point in your season, something different relative to the rest of the season. I acknowledge that Jason Tatum is incredibly familiar with this roster and with this team. But, when you are entering the most important and most critical time where winning is of the most important thing, it is win or go home at that point in the season when they're expecting Jason Tatum to come back. You don't have a lot of wiggle room. You don't have a lot of time to get back up to speed. You don't have the privilege of being able to kind of ramp things up over the course of 5, 10, 15 to 20 games. You don't have the privilege of time if you are Jason Tatum. You don't have the privilege of time if you're the Celtics team trying to re-gel and kind of resync with one another.
As the Celtics are currently constructed, I believe that they are capable of winning the East. I believe the Celtics today could go to the NBA Finals. And I believe as they're currently constructed they wouldn't in those finals be able to beat the Spurs, the Nuggets, the OKCs of the world. I believe that. If you put Jason Tatum on this team this year, I believe that all of those answers say the exact same. So even though I believe Tatum is a superstar and one of the best players in the NBA, I'm not sure this year with this roster, the way this season is going, it actually changes the ceiling for the Celtics, as crazy as I know that sounds to everybody. Part of the reason that I say that is how high I am, as you all know, on the Western Conference. Well, we haven't even gotten to the hottest team in the conference. That man right there just won his 10th in a row with the Spurs. What's it mean for San Antonio? We'll tell you next.
Who's the dream fight? Like, who's the final boss for you?
Nyla Inoue.
Yeah, that's the one, huh?
Yeah, I feel like he's the guy.
What a freaking fight that would be.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
How far away do you think you are from this, like, maybe being a thing?
I would say maybe a year.
Yeah.
Maybe just a year away. Yeah, it's
Is the
right
dream
there.
to try to, like, get more belts so that entices him to come after you? Okay.
100%. He's going to get a wake-up call fighting a guy like me.
And Kenneth Walker wins Super Bowl MVP.
The way he's kind of molded his game to work for him has been fun because it's such a hard turn from where he started. Sometimes it feels like a more dramatic version of like how Le'Veon Bell used to run the ball, how Le'Veon would stop and wait and see things open. But Le'Veon, like, he was hugging the ass of his centers and his guards. Kenneth is like, he's like step back so he can see the whole picture open up. And then when it hits, he's off.
The Sixers, to me, are the biggest loser of the trade deadline. You get these middling picks for Jared McCain, one of your most promising young players, to duck the tax. Just a joke. If I'm a Sixers fan, I'm infuriated. The Sixers, losers this trade deadline. It's just so disappointing for Philadelphia, man.
Who in college football could experience that same level of redemption arc? And I was thinking, we've actually kind of seen it a little bit in the past. I would say Jaden Daniels did. Remember when his teammates were like throwing his things out of his locker and talking trash about him when he left Arizona State, and then he goes and wins the Heisman at LSU?
It was a little bit of a turnaround. I wonder what those guys are doing now.
What's up, Jason and Caroline? Here's what happened while you were sleeping in the NBA. The San Antonio Spurs traveled to Toronto to take on the Raptors in what became the game of the night. The Raptors were on the second leg of a back-to-back, but you couldn't tell their commitment to stopping Victor Wembanyama was some of the best work we've seen all season defensively. They held him to just 3 of 12 shooting and 12 points overall. You hold Victor to 12 points, you're expecting a W in the end. But that's why the Spurs team is different. Their resiliency and ability to get their guards activated and their defense locked in when it matters most is what really changed this game. They entered the fourth quarter down by 12 points and ended up outscoring the Raptors 32-17 in the final frame to get the victory 110-107. Now, even though Victor didn't play well offensively, you know what he's going to bring defensively. 5 blocks, 1 steal, on top of De'Aaron Fox and Devin Vassell both scoring 20 points apiece. This Spurs team just looks locked in, top to bottom on their roster, and that's why they're creeping up on the Oklahoma City Thunder. With OKC losing that game on Wednesday, the Spurs are just 2 games back on the Thunder. So I gotta ask, if the Spurs become the top-seeded team in the Western Conference, does Victor Wembanyama get more MVP votes? And should Mitch Johnson really be the coach of the year? Back to you.
Oh, Titus, that's good stuff from him. And look, it raises a real question because, we've been sort of the Wemby show all year, Caroline. But I look at this and say, man, I'm not sure in the modern climate how we make sense of the MVP. My biggest concern, I will say loudly on the MVP conversation for Wemby, is will he get to the mandatory game threshold, 65? He can only miss 4 games the rest of the season to do that. I looked it up. The Spurs still have 4 back-to-backs left this season. So if he just sits out the back-to-backs, which is not uncommon for star players down the stretch, he'll find himself ineligible. So I'm concerned that Wemby won't even get to the number of games he has to get to. But if he does, it's hard not to make a case, certainly as well as San Antonio is playing, even on an off night, that he is an MVP.
It also feels a little funky talking about Wemby's MVP candidacy the morning after he had 12 points. The morning after he didn't find really an offensive rhythm until the fourth quarter. And look, I know that Victor Wembanyama is an absolute cyborg. I know what Wemby means to that Spurs team. It's not like just one night completely eliminates you from MVP candidacy, but it does feel weird making Wemby the story about this Spurs team on a night like last night. Because I'm with you on, is he going to hit the 65-game threshold? That's at least a question mark. But I think the story isn't Wemby. It's this Spurs team in its entirety. This Spurs team's depth is what makes me incredibly encouraged that they could be right up there with the Thunder and right up there with the Nuggets, and very much so are not just finals contenders, but legitimate championship contenders in the NBA. Because on a night when Wemby gets held to 12 points and you still find a way to win on the road at Toronto. And look, when you're playing Toronto, Scottie Barnes is going to get his. You know, he's one of the best defenders in the NBA, not named Victor Wembanyama. So to Titus's point, yeah, you hold him to 12 points, you expect to win. But whenever a Wemby or a De'Aaron Fox has an off night, the Spurs have enough guys that they can turn to and say, okay, you got this, you can carry us. Because look at De'Aaron Fox, who was held to just 10 points against the Pistons a couple of days ago. Well, De'Aaron Fox comes back and has a 20-point performance against the Raptors when the Spurs needed someone to step up defensively. That this Spurs team is so deep and so reliable. You're getting 15 points off the bench from Dylan Harper. The story this morning, as much as Wemby is a story every single day in the NBA, because that's just kind of the caliber of player that he is, I don't think he's the story today. It's this Spurs team being able to get it done even when they had a double-digit deficit, even when Scottie Barnes is playing lockdown defense, even when the shots aren't falling, even when their superstar is having an off night. They still found a way to win. That is the moniker of a championship contending team.
You're 1,000% right. I mean, they had 8 guys last night that played over 20 minutes, right? You talked about the bench for Dylan Harper, but the bench overall gave them a ton of production. Steph Castle has continued this year to play at an incredibly high level, even though last night wasn't really his best night either, you know? So when you talk about it, I think what we saw last night is a Spurs team that really survived a night that wasn't their best basketball, but they still reminded you that they are built the way that, you know, how often do we talk about it? Depth matters. And I think your point's a really important one because it is the depth of the Spurs. And look, if we're talking about the ceiling for this Spurs team, one thing we have to acknowledge is that the Spurs have been some kryptonite for OKC. So you feel like, hey, the Spurs are getting hot. OKC can't seem to get healthy. There's a window now where I think maybe the conversation isn't just MVP and Coach of the Year, but should we have a new favorite in the West? And that might play itself out over the course of the next couple of weeks. It's worth keeping an eye on. Speaking of things we're keeping an eye on, we did get some other NBA news, and it came from Tim Kawakami, who very much does not want to get aggregated. He made it clear, but he got aggregated because he said what he's hearing, and I love this, made it clear that he didn't want to get aggregated, but he still went to a microphone with it. Either way, Tim, made it clear that what he's hearing, not reporting, just hearing, is that the rumor are the punishments for aspiration and everything Clipper-centric is going to be more about what happens to Kawhi and his contract than what happens to the Clippers. He's making it clear that at least from what he's hearing, but not reporting when he doesn't want to get aggregated, is that the hammer that we keep talking about could be hitting Kawhi and not the Clippers. How do we feel about that?
Well, okay, first of all, if you don't want to get aggregated, then don't say anything. It's like saying no offense and then saying something offensive. It's like, okay, well, saying no offense doesn't necessarily fix it. Saying I don't want to be aggregated and then saying something pretty bold and spicy is going to get you aggregated, Tim. But that's not the most important thing here. So, look, I love aggregators so much. Tim, calm down. Get off Twitter. Take a walk.
I have to jump in real quick, Caroline. I have to jump. The first thing I was ever told in this business is you never get in trouble for what you don't say in front of a microphone. Tim Kawakami's been in front of a microphone and writing for longer than I've been in this business. You don't want to be aggregated, just shut up, dude. Like, just don't say it.
Just don't
the minute
say
you
anything.
went to a microphone saying, hey, I'm not reporting it, I'm just hearing it, I don't want to be aggregated, then just don't say it. Like, the number of times any of us in this business get text from somebody that's like, hey, this is what I'm hearing, You got to decide what you're comfortable putting your you-know-what on the line for. It's totally soft by Tim to come in and say, I'm being improperly aggregated. Dude, you decided to sit in front of a mic.
You put it out
there. You spoke in front of a mic, and you could have told your podcast producer to cut the segment afterwards. So politely, Tim, respectfully, Tim, shut up. All right, go ahead, Caroline.
Any hoodle. From the point that Tim made, but very fair. Don't say anything if you don't want to get aggregated. But if we can aggregate, what Tim Kawakami said, I think that this is so backwards and so twisted, and I think it's a massive indictment on the NBA. Not just because Kawhi is getting punished. That's fine. Kawhi broke the rules. You get punished when you break the rules. But if Kawhi is the lone member of the Clippers, is the lone person involved in the aspiration of it all that gets any sort of punishment, shame on you, Adam Silver, and shame on the NBA. Because what Adam Silver is saying, the message that he would be sending is, look, if you're rich enough, you can really get away with whatever you want. Because anytime that I bring up big-time punishment for Steve Ballmer, or potentially even a forced sale from the Clippers if they really want to lay the hammer down, everyone says, well, okay, but they're not going to kick Steve Ballmer out of the league. He's the richest owner in the league. He's worth $150 billion. They're not going to do that. Okay, fine. Then if you're rich enough, you can do whatever you want. That this isn't, that Adam Silver is not the commissioner of the NBA. We have an oligarchy in the NBA. It's Adam Silver and it's Steve Ballmer because he has carte blanche to break whatever rules he feels like breaking because he's rich enough to make up for it. And I kind of feel bad for Kawhi. Look, it's not Kawhi's job to follow the owner rules in the NBA. Fitz, I come up to you and I say, hey, Fitz, I'm breaking the rules, but here's $100 million. Are you going to say, no, but you're breaking the rules? Again, Kawhi's not innocent. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm taking all of your money. If you offer me $100 million, I'm taking the $100 million. You're right. And
of course.
The scary thing about this, it's a word I use all the time when we talk about this stuff, is precedent, right? Like, to me, if you do not punish the Clippers for what they've done, what you've really told every team in the NBA is, hey, if your window's right now, screw it. Go all in. Like, if I'm the Cavs next year and I go to and LeBron comes to me in this situation and says, hey, I'll play for the veteran minimum if you can find me $100 million worth of endorsement deals around Cleveland. All right, come on. Because, hey, what are you going to do? You're going to punish LeBron when he retires? No, you're not going to. You're telling every player that's at the very end of their window, find another way to circumvent the cap. We won't punish the teams. And if I'm the Cavs or any other team that's right on the precipice of winning a championship, hell, it's worth it. If all you're going to do is slap the player for it or just give me a second-round draft pick sort of a fine for it, cool. I will cheat all day and twice on Sunday if I know that I don't have to pay the consequence for it. I think the precedence on this is absolutely dangerous for the future of the NBA.
It's incredibly dangerous. You are setting a really dangerous sentiment or a really dangerous precedent because the sentiment will be, look, if you are valuable enough to the league, you can get away with it. And what the NBA would be doing in punishing Kawhi is acknowledging that rules were broken, is acknowledging that there was enough evidence that the NBA collected to warrant a punishment. But Steve Ballmer gets off scot-free? Well, I think it'd be better for the NBA if they just said, nope, no wrongdoing, all good over here. But in punishing Kawhi and not Steve Ballmer, what you're saying is Kawhi is not valuable enough to us. Somebody has to pay for this, but it's not going to be Steve Ballmer because we can't afford to piss him off and we can't afford to not have him in the association. I think it's spineless. I think it's cowardly. And I think it's dangerous for the future of the NBA.
How many other businesses outside of just the Knicks could James Dolan go to and say, hey, you know what? We figured it out. Salary cap or not, we are going to make sure that every single veteran player at the end of their career wants to come here and try and win a chip. You know what? If the Knicks this summer decide that they're going to go after LeBron and Giannis both, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, I can't believe it. They signed reasonable contracts to go to the Knicks. Why would they ever do that? Oh, okay, fine. Now I'll go to 30 other businesses in New York and say, what's it worth? What's it worth to every single person? You're essentially going to do what they do in college with NIL. Like, if you don't punish the Clippers in this process and you only punish Kawhi for what is clear and obvious circumvention of the salary cap, and it should be noted, not the first time that BALLMER and the Clippers have gotten in trouble for circumventing the salary cap. So now you have a repeat offender that you're saying, now we're good. It's actually, it's totally on the player and his uncle. It's not on you guys for doing what you know you cannot do. Like, ignorance is not excuse in any of this. I don't understand what the NBA could possibly be thinking. And at the end of the day, for me, Caroline, I just look at it and say, cool. Every other NBA team in a market where there is business that can make their players money should immediately, I mean immediately, and don't even try and hide it. Just go out to the world and be like, well, you know what? By the time you investigate this and by the time you turn around and get your findings from it, we'll be rising a banner in the rafters and we won't give a damn about your punishment. If I'm Mark Cuban, I'm going to literally everybody, and I'm just working side deals on Shark Tank to make sure that every player wants to come here. But it ain't part of my salary cap because you didn't punish Clippers. So that's what I think Adam Silver, who already, I don't know that there's a commissioner in all of sports that's worse with these sorts of issues, but this is a moment where Adam Silver has to step up and make sure that he doesn't allow precedent to be set. All right, plenty to get into with the NBA, but even more to get into with the NFL. We are at Combine Week, and there is controversy, as always, around who should be the starting quarterback. One of the best in the business, Kay Cabot. She'll break down the Browns quarterback situation for us next.
Peterson looked like the clear-cut number one pick in the first half of that game. He looked like the clear-cut number one pick. The fluidity on the floor, the ease in which he moved off ball defensively, creating havoc. He looked majestic.
Sometimes it just comes down to as simple as, like, this dude moves the way basketball players are born to move. Was Kevin Durant the last college scorer that made it look as effortless?
Did you go to the casino after the fight?
Hell yeah.
How'd you do?
We're up.
Up?
We're up.
Well done.
We're up.
Were you just walking around there after the fight and people recognizing you? Like, weren't you the guy that was just on the UFC?
Yeah, that's where I get recognized the most.
Really?
The other gambling degens, everyone recognizes me there. Anywhere else I go, no one knows me. But if I go there, everyone points me out.
The 72 Dolphins is infamously the no-name defense. This one's the too-many-name defense.
Too many names,
there's too many names.
Defenses were ahead of offenses this season for a lot of it. Like, the best teams in the NFL had the best defenses. We're sitting here talking about this defense and how good it was and how hard it is to isolate one player. And yeah, that's the sport of football. It's a team sport. It's hard to isolate individual players, and Seattle really exemplified that all year.
We're ranking the actual threats from the absolute frauds.
Your contenders, who do you got?
My contenders. So I have Sporting, and I say that because they have had a strong top 8 finish over some other heavyweight teams. Mm-hmm. They're actually very, very hard to break down as a squad, and they're very, very strong in transition.
And they got a guy named Luis Suarez, which is fun. Just
guard your ears.
I think what you see is elite playmaking ability. That's in him. You've seen it. We've seen it. You saw it in college. You saw it on tape last year. Sure, there's a ways to go, but what rookie isn't? I mean, what first-year player doesn't have a long way to go? So I'm excited to get started with him and all of our quarterbacks and all of our players.
That was Browns head coach Todd Monken yesterday talking about Shedeur's shot at being the number one starter in Cleveland. Joining us now, Kay Cabot, one of the best in the business, the Browns beat writer for the Cleveland Plain Dealer. Kay, thank you so much for your time this morning. We'll just get right to it. Who do you think should be the starting quarterback week 1 for the Cleveland Browns?
Well, right now, I think it really is coming down to Deshaun Watson versus Shedeur Sanders. And I think that Todd Monken is going to let these guys have an open competition. They're going to be in the offseason program beginning April 6th, and he'll have a chance to see them a little bit, start to throw and to work out and to watch more of their film and get a better feel for what these guys are going to bring to the table. So I can't say yet which one of those two guys I think it's going to be. And then also, they are looking at external external options. Now, I do believe that it probably will be either Shedeur or Deshaun, but they're not ruling anything out. They've got some external candidates on the roster, on their radar as well. So this remains to be seen.
You bring up the external candidates. Do you believe that would come in the form of drafting a rookie quarterback or looking through free agency?
I think if they were going to add another quarterback, it probably would be a veteran in terms of someone that they thought could possibly start for them in 2026. If they bring in another rookie, that player would be more of a developmental player that would sit behind Shedeur, Deshaun, whoever else. Because right now, I really don't see an option for them unless they really believe that Ty Simpson is their quarterback of the future. I don't know if they would seriously take him at number 6, or if I know they're considering it. They're looking at him at number 6, number 24, number 39. But they would have to weigh that against what they think Shedeur can do for them. And he's already 7 starts in. So I think that might be a bit of a long shot.
What are some potential names that have been on your radar for veteran quarterbacks to bring in?
Well, Malik Willis is certainly one that is on the radar of any team needing a veteran quarterback or trying to upgrade to another starter. So he's someone that is on the Browns' radar, but I don't know if he is a viable option for them for a number of reasons, including the fact that Deshaun Watson and Malik Willis are both represented by David Mulugheta. I'm not sure that he would want to pit those two guys against each other. This is a real opportunity for Deshaun Watson to get his career back on track and to salvage something from that blockbuster trade the Browns made for him. So I'm not really sure if they would want to do that, but we'll have to see how that goes. And then there are plenty of other teams that are going to be in the sweepstakes for Malik Willis, and the price is going to climb. And the Browns don't have all that much money to spend on another veteran, considering that Deshaun Watson is costing them right now $80 million against their cap for 2026.
So, Mary Kay, I want to try and separate the noise from reality. But there was a lot of noise that Deshaun Watson was a pick of the Haslams, and the coaches didn't really have a choice. Then there was a lot of noise that Shedeur was a pick of the Haslams, and the coach didn't really have a choice. How much autonomy do you believe that this coaching staff will have to pick the actual winner of the starting quarterback battle?
Well, first of all, let's back up to the Deshaun Watson situation. That was not the pick of the Haslam family at all. That was Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski in the personnel department, all putting their heads together and deciding that they needed an upgrade at that time over Baker Mayfield. So that was not a Haslam pick. That was Haslam jumping in and saying, if we want to get this thing done, let's give him the fully guaranteed contract worth $230 million. That's where Haslam really stepped in on that. But that was an organizational decision that they made. And then in terms of Shedeur Sanders, that also was not Jimmy Haslam making that pick. He doesn't make picks. Andrew Berry has final say. And that was a situation where Andrew saw good value in the 5th round and made that pick. And now he has a chance to possibly be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. But Todd Monken will absolutely 100% have a say in the matter in what he sees out there in terms of Deshaun and Shedeur, and does he need to go outside and look for another quarterback? But he will not be picking the next quarterback. He will have a say in it.
What is the fan sentiment surrounding Andrew Berry? How much trust does the fan base have in Andrew Berry's ability to make the Browns a contender?
Well, I think all you have to do is look at last year's draft. When we were at the owners' meetings last year, Jimmy Haslam basically said that they had to nail the 2025 draft. And Andrew went out and did that in grand fashion. He ended up drafting Carson Schlesinger at number 33 overall. He became the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. They also made the blockbuster trade with the Jaguars. They ended up picking Mason Graham at number 5. And then they revamped their running game with Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson. And then they got another 1st-round pick in this draft coming up from the Jaguars. And then it goes on and on. But that draft was certainly the best one of the Andrew Berry regime. And now they're expecting him to layer that and add another great draft on top of it.
With that being said, they have the 6th pick in this year's draft, which is a really interesting spot in a very weird draft. There's so many polarizing opinions on the greatness of it. Do you have a sense of what the Browns are trying to do at this point with that 6th pick?
Well, they need to rebuild their offensive line. So they're certainly going to be looking at a lot of the really great tackles and guards in this draft. But they're also, and I wrote this the other day, they will be exploring trade downs with that pick. And again, last year they knocked that trade out of the park. The Jaguars picked Travis Hunter. Of course, he ended up getting injured, but right now the Browns have 3, maybe, more starters out of that trade. And so they're looking to do something like that again, if they can get somebody to come up and try to grab that number 6 overall pick. Now, there are not a lot of quarterbacks in this draft, so it's hard to say if someone will actually give them an offer that they can't refuse there. But if they find one of those, I'm sure they would love to pick up another first-round pick for next year when the quarterback class will be rich.
And I'm sure a trade back, especially like you mentioned after last season, looks incredibly attractive in a draft that doesn't seem like it has a ton of talent at the top. But of course, time will tell. But let's just say the Browns plan to stick and pick at 6. What are some names that you believe could be there for the taking for the Browns at 6 that could make an instant impact for Cleveland this season?
Well, once again, I think you have to look at all of the offensive tackles, Spencer Fano and guys in that category. And, who knows, 1 or 2 of those guys might even be off the board by the time you get to number 6. But if you look at the top 5 offensive tackles in this draft, I think those are the guys that they will be targeting there. But you can't rule anything out, because here's the thing about Andrew Berry. He does not draft for need. Now, this year, need just so happens to marry up with some of these strengths in this draft. But if the best available player at number 6 is a defensive player, he'll take the defensive player. That's how they operate in the draft. And so you can't really predict exactly what he's going to do. But if I had to put my money on it right now, I would probably say offensive tackle.
Mary Kay, I love how just you stay so level covering this team, right? And that's hard to do because not many people do that nationally. When Stefanski was fired, he immediately became this massive, oh my God, we got to have him candidate, felt like, for all these different teams. And then Monken gets hired. But there seems to be this perception that Stefanski wasn't the problem. So if Stefanski wasn't the problem, what has been the problem for the Browns?
Well, I think it's pretty easy when you look at it. It's been the quarterback. They thought they had their answer when they went out and they made that blockbuster trade for Deshaun Watson, giving up 3 first-round picks and a net of 5 to get Deshaun Watson. And if you remember, Jimmy Haslam called that a swing and a miss last year at the owners' meetings. But if you really look at it, the problem with Deshaun Watson has been an 11-game suspension, a fractured shoulder requiring surgery, and then a torn Achilles that required 2 surgeries. So he's coming off of 3 surgeries and a suspension. Now, Todd Monken is intrigued by what Deshaun Watson might possibly bring to the table if he's healthy and if he's in the right kind of mind frame to go out there and resume his career. He hasn't started a full season since 2020, so it's hard to say, but Deshaun is intent on coming out and winning this job. That's what is in his mind. He's down in Florida throwing right now, but that has been the problem here. It's been quarterback, it's been the revolving door, and that was probably the biggest problem while Kevin was here.
Look, I know there are a lot of question marks around this roster, most notably the quarterback position, but what do you feel like is the expectation for this Browns team in Todd Monken's first year?
Well, I think that they realize that it's very important to get back to winning. So even though they're in retooling, rebuilding mode, whatever you want to call it, they know that they've got to win football games. They're coming off of 2 losing seasons. The fans are growing impatient. The veteran players on this team, such as Myles, Garrett, Denzel Ward, those guys are getting impatient. So they have to get back to winning as soon as they possibly can. And Todd Monken has waited a long time for this opportunity in his life. He's 60 years old. He has a lot to prove. And I don't think he's going to want to have a year where everybody's looking at this football team and saying, geez, why did you hire him? And all of those kinds of things. So if they can get a good quarterback in here and get some good quarterback play and pair that with a championship caliber defense, which they already have in place, they might be able to make a little noise this year.
You mentioned Myles. We haven't asked about him. We should, right? A year ago, it was Myles wants to be traded, and then Myles got a bunch of money. What is your sense on where Myles Garrett is right now with the plans that the Browns have?
Well, we haven't heard anything about him not wanting to be here this season, and it would be getting a little late for that. So I believe that he's all in. He's ready to do whatever it takes to try to help this team win. I think he wants to try to come back and exceed what he did last year with those record-setting 23 sacks. I think he wants to bring that number up to 25. He's had that written on his wrist tape all of last year. And I think he would love to get a third NFL Defensive Player of the Year award while also trying to help the Browns win. So I think he's ready to go. I think he'll be good for the new defensive coordinator, Mike Rutenberg, even though he was sad to see Jim Schwartz go. I think he'll be the leader for this team that he's been.
You guys can follow her on social media at Mary Kay Cabot. You can read her in the Cleveland Plain Dealer. She is a masterclass on how to brilliantly cover a team. We really appreciate your time, Mary Kay. Thank you so much. Enjoy Indy. Try to stay out of the chaos. Not too much horseradish. We appreciate you hanging out with us.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Mary Kay Cabot, hanging out, giving us all the breakdowns. Coming up next, just when you thought the money couldn't get any wilder, it might be. How much could Brandon Aubrey get paid? The number will shock you.
You covered Darnold with the Jets. Where are you kind of just feeling about him?
Another game with 3 games in a row, no turnovers for Sam. The sack avoidance snipe from Sam was incredible. The back and forth between Sam and Milton Williams was honestly really impressive for Sam on my part, because I thought that it wasn't his best game of the season, but it was the game he needed to have, which was clean. He won the Super Bowl. He's going to get a contract extension. It's kind of cool to see his redemption story.
What was it like being at MSG? Like in the back, the locker room? Like, could you feel that it was a little different?
It's a total different experience from being there as a spectator to actually being there backstage and all of that stuff. Total different experience. I was so tuned into my fight. I don't even think I was looking at the referee. I'm just there, just kind of just like looking down. I'm listening to what he's saying, but at the same time, I'm just thinking about the fight. I'm like, yeah, all right, y'all done? You ready? Right? Yeah. All right, it's time to go.
The Premier League has gotten so successful. Survival has become such a priority. Maybe that doesn't lead to the most entertaining football match.
The one thing that you want to avoid is having this runaway first place team by Boxing Day, which happens more often than not. This has been, I would argue, a little bit more exciting this season. The entire mid-table is packed.
Yeah.
So
as an Everton fan, I'm like, yeah, we in the mix.
For Clippers fans, I just feel bad, Tom. I mean, I feel bad. It's always something with the Clippers. It's always something. And then, the year begins and the whole aspiration thing, and then the team sucks. And then they start winning and they make a run and they're in the play-in and the playoffs are ahead. And then this all happens. James Harden does it again. He asks for another trade.
The Cowboys and Brandon Aubrey's agent agree that he should be the highest paid kicker in the NFL. Huzzah. But there's much disagreement over how much, according to ESPN's Todd Archer. Dallas has offered a deal to the restricted free agent kicker that's more than the league high $6.4 million. But Aubrey's agent has asked for a deal closer to $10 million per season. Good God. Kickers out here making $10 million. I love it. I love anybody getting paid, Caroline, but my God, when I saw this number, I did the whole ooga, like the eyeballs went out, the whole thing. $10 million for a kicker. I have no idea. This is amazing.
First of all, I love this for him. Get your bag. I'm not going to be the one to stop you. But there are also players at certain quote unquote non-premier positions that I say just take the positional tag away from them. Take whatever you might think about positional value and just throw it in the trash. I said that about the Brock Bowers draft. Look, I know he's a tight end, but throw that out. Brock Bowers is otherworldly. Brock Bowers contributes more to an individual team than maybe you might traditionally think a tight end could. It's the exact same thing with Brandon Aubrey. You're thinking $10 million for a kicker, and I'm thinking $10 million for a guy who can win you a game from 60 plus yards. That is a certain level of value that I think deserves an unprecedented break the market, change the market kind of deal. I mean, I look at the Cowboys and look, with the new kickoff rules, the Cowboys need 1 first down and then they can kick. Like, that is absurd. That's insane. That's the kind of X factor that I think any kind of coach or any organization would want. That in end of game situations, you cannot count the Cowboys out, no matter how far they may be pinned back, no matter how far, or no matter how much difficulty they may have in moving the football, because as soon as they can get it into Brandon Aubrey range, all bets are off. So while 10 million sounds crazy, Harrison Butker right now is the highest paid kicker in the league at $6.5 million. All reports said that the Cowboys offered him $7.5, and he said thanks, but no thanks. If I'm Jerry, I'm paying the man because somebody will.
6 NFL 60-yard plus field goals in his career. That's the most of any kicker. The longest was a 65-yarder. From 50 or more yards, 50 or more yards, he has kicked just under 80% accuracy at 50 or more, which is astounding. He made 3 field goals of 60 or more yards in the 2025 season alone, and in 3 seasons, he's made as many 60-yard field goals, 6, as all NFL kickers combined did between 1960 and 2008, right? Like, those are wild, weird stats to tell you that this guy is not just a kicker, he's a weapon. And to your point, Caroline, and I think it's the most important one, now that you have the new kickoff rules where teams start at the 35, you need 15 yards total in any drive, and you are suddenly right on the edge of field goal range. Like, when we see that little neon line where it's like, this is where you have to get. For the Cowboys at the end of every game, that neon line is way farther back than it is for almost everybody else. And on top of that, in the modern NFL, we see more games than ever that come down to 1 score. And knowing that, if you've got an automatic weapon that helps you get there, I know this is what we all do. We say $10 million for a kicker. That's asinine. This is what I would say. If you were willing to pay him $7 million to be your kicker, which I think probably feels about right, well, then the real number here is 3. Are you willing to pay an extra $3 million to not have to reset at a position that gives you such a massive advantage? Yes, you can't do that at every position and still win. I understand all of these things. But at that position, the way this is going, yeah, I pay the man. And if he wants $10 million, like, if he's going to reset the entire market, then reset the entire market. Now, I get it. There's complications, and frankly, this is probably where the Cowboys wish they could just franchise tag him. Because if they could franchise tag him, that would save him a little bit of money. But they can't franchise tag him because they never seem to take care of contracts quickly all over the place, and they don't have the use of the tag where they need it. They need to use it on Pickens instead. So the Cowboys have put themselves in this situation when it's going to cost them $10 million. And I'm not going to cry for Jerry. I'm not going to cry for an NFL team. Instead, I'm going to cry happy tears in the club for Brandon Aubrey getting in on this. Now, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know, Aubrey got his start in the USFL, which later became the UFL as part of a merger with the XFL. Okay, so the UFL made news yesterday because they have some new changes in their rule book, including a change that would make field goals of at least 60 yards worth 4 points instead of 3. I want to stress this. I actually, at ESPN, hosted the studio show for the XFL at the time. The XFL, everything they did from a rulebook standpoint, Dean Blandino, head of officiating there at the time, everything was done in partnership with the NFL. So the kickoff rules that you see today in the NFL actually started in the XFL. I covered them when they happened, and they used it as a testing ground. So when I see what now is the XFL, is it the UFL, when I see them do this, my first thought is, what is the NFL looking at? What is the NFL testing? Because this will become some level of, should we look at this for the NFL? Do you love a 4-point field goal from 60 or more?
Hate it. Absolutely hate it. And I'll give you 3 reasons why. 1, I don't like change. That's a personal thing. Oh. But I don't like change. And I would not like this change. 2, math. Too much math for me. I'm good with 3s and 7s. That's easy. 3s and 7s, that works. You know, we can all do the mental math in our heads during a game. We can all do, the mental strategy that it takes when we're working with 3s and 7s. You throw 4s in there, 3s, 7s, and occasionally 2s. You throw 4s in there, and now all of a sudden, like, my brain breaks. I don't do this because I'm good at math, right? If I was good at math, I would probably make a whole lot more money elsewhere. And I love doing this. Third of all, I don't believe in incentivizing teams that struggle to move the football offensively. What a field goal is just a consolation prize, right? You can move the ball close enough, but you can't quite get there. If you can't get 6, well, here you go. Here's 3. What adding an extra point onto a field goal would do would be essentially incentivizing a team for not being able to move the ball any closer. Do you get it? Kickers can now kick from 60 plus like Brandon Aubrey, that it feels like a 50-yard field goal should be a gimme and a no-brainer in this version of the NFL. At some point, I do understand the game evolving and changing as kickers are evolving and changing. But if you can't move the ball past midfield, I'm not giving you an extra cookie. I'm not giving you an incentive for not being able to move the ball offensively.
Your last point is just inarguable. It's brilliantly laid out by you, and I don't have any sort of clapback to it. I also think 60 sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, because as we just mentioned, Brandon Aubrey stats, it should be noted last year was a historic year for the entire NFL. There were 12 field goals of 60 yards or more out of 22 attempts. So you already had 22 times that. Now, some of those are end of games and a half, and you're just sort of trying to boot it to see where you can go. But you play this situation out with math, which you point out sucks. We all agree on that. Come on. I'm old enough to remember when teachers would look at you in math class and say, what, do you think you're going to have a calculator with you everywhere you ever go? You have to actually do the math.
Yes.
Now. Haha.
No.
Now we have phones. Thank you so much. I want to invent a time machine and go back to my Algebra 2 trig teacher and say, suck it. But in the meantime, when we actually look at what we see here, if you're down by a touchdown with 2 minutes to go, but now all of a sudden, the minute you're in field goal range, boom, you kick that field goal, you're going to try and get the ball back. Then you're going to try and kick another long field goal because the 3 and a 4 would make up the 7. I don't want to devalue touchdowns to the point late in the game that a 4-point kick could, because now 2 field goals equals 1 touchdown. And it shouldn't, given the starting field position. Again, knowing that you could be in range for a 4-point kick when you've gone 15 yards, I don't think that a team that's winning an entire football game should suddenly turn around and find themselves on the losing end of it because they gave up 30 yards total in the fourth quarter, which led to 2 field goals, which now suddenly equaled 7 or 8 points, depending on where those are from. Like, if we're in a spot where you can just suddenly essentially Hail Mary kick Aubrey twice and you can beat a team that scored touchdowns, I don't think that's great. So you're right. I don't love rewarding teams that have bad offense. I also think 60 is just becoming too attainable to make that the marker on it. And once you get further back than that, now you're just talking about impossible and stupid rules. So I'm with you. I don't like the rule, but I don't like the rule because, frankly, I think 4 points is going to become too attainable to too many kickers in the NFL too quickly.
Yeah, we're getting there. Do you remember a time when a 50-yard field goal was like circus freak level leg?
Yes.
Like a 50-yard field goal was crazy to think about. Now in today's NFL, 50 is like you should hit that. You should hit from 50, 53, 55, even if you're a kicker in the National Football League. That's just the way that the game has evolved. So I'm with you. And I do think that's very smartly laid out. End of game situations, 2 field goals can win you a game, or at least send you to overtime when you are down by a single touchdown. Touchdowns have to matter. I don't want to see a kickoff. Kick space off in the NFL. I don't want to continuously see games decided because kickers can kick from 65. I want to see touchdowns. We all want to see touchdowns. We're all gluttonous for points here in the National Football League, and I don't think adding a 4th point to a field goal necessarily serves fans. Like I'll always go back to why? What's the point? What is the reason for this? What's the reason for incentivizing long field goals?
You're right. And mentioning
does it serve
overtime
what fans
too.
want?
Yeah, no. And what do we do in overtime where you move the ball 5 or 6 yards and then you're just trying a deep kick to give you a 4-point edge over instead of a 3-point edge? Like, it's just a weird situation. We all love to see scoring. Kyle Van Noy doesn't. He likes to stop scoring. He's going to hang out with us next. We'll get his thoughts on the new rebranded look of the Baltimore Ravens coming up next.
Who's the dream fight? Like, who's the final boss for you?
Now anyway.
Yeah, that's the one. Huh?
Yeah, I feel like he's the guy.
What a freaking fight that would be.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
How far away do you think you are from this, like, maybe being a thing?
I would say maybe a year.
Yeah.
Maybe just a year away. Yeah, it's
Is the
right
dream
there.
to try to, like, get more belts so that entices him to come after you? Okay.
100%. He's going to get a wake-up call fighting a guy like me.
And Kenneth Walker wins Super Bowl MVP.
The way he's kind of molded his game to work for him has been fun because it's such a hard turn from where he started. Sometimes it feels like a more dramatic version of like how Le'Veon Bell used to run the ball, how Le'Veon would stop and wait and see things open. But Le'Veon, like, he was hugging the ass of his centers and his guards. Kenneth is like, he's like step back so he can see the whole picture open up. And then when it hits, he's off.
The Sixers, to me, are the biggest loser of the trade deadline. You get these middling picks for Jared McCain, one of your most promising young players, to duck the tax. Just a joke. If I'm a Sixers fan, I'm infuriated. The Sixers, losers this trade deadline. It's just so disappointing for Philadelphia, man.
Who in college football could experience that same level of redemption arc? And I was thinking, we've actually kind of seen it a little bit in the past. I'd say Jaden Daniels did. Remember when his teammates were like throwing his things out of his locker and talking trash about him when he left Arizona State, and then he goes and wins the Heisman at LSU?
It was a little bit of a turnaround. I wonder what those guys are doing now.
I'd like to see an X's and O's guy in there as head coach. That is Kyle Van Noy on NFL Game Day earlier this year, talking about what he would love to see the Ravens do. And then the Ravens turned around and hired defensive-minded head coach Jesse Minter. We bring in Kyle now, two-time Super Bowl champion vet linebacker, former Yahoo colleague. Also, love having Kyle hang out with us. Let's talk about it. All right, so you said you wanted somebody X's and O's to come in there for the Ravens organization. Jesse Minter comes in. What was your first impression?
First off, thank you for the introduction. Let's go. You have great energy today. Let's keep that energy sky high. Let's go. We got to keep that energy. Let's go. Anyways, X's and O's, I think they hit a home run with that. Jesse Minter is X's and O's. He's been top 5 NFL defensive coordinator the last 2 years. They hit it out the park with that. I think they wanted to bring in because they wanted to shore up that defense back to when it was in 23. And let's not act like 24 was that bad either. So last year, not up to the standard. I will definitely tip the hat to everybody knowing who watched us. We didn't play up to the Baltimore Ravens standard, but Jesse Minter is going to bring that defense back. He's going to bring a fundamentally sound football team. I think you're going to see a eerily similar team to the Seahawks. They're going to want to run the ball. They want to run play action. Lamar being able to run with his leg is an added piece to that. But defense, I think they're going to be heavy in the trenches this free agency, heavy in the O-line during the draft and free agency, as well as the D-line. I just see Jesse Minter coming in and establishing a culture, the Ravens 2.0, kind of what it's always been, but his kind of little recipe, his little changes. I am excited to see what he does as the head coach of the Ravens. Let's go.
Let's go. I loved the hire. I thought, he fit the culture of the Ravens so well. I thought a defensive-minded head coach fits the culture of the Ravens so well. But we're living in a league now where everyone's trying to find their own Sean McVay, their own Kyle Shanahan, their own offensive genius mastermind. You have played for so many different types of head coaches in the NFL, and then going back to your time at BYU as well. What's the difference between playing for an offensive-minded versus a defensive-minded head coach?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I had Jim Caldwell in Detroit. He was an offensive-minded coach. He actually won a Super Bowl with the Ravens as the OC to Joe Flacco when they won in 2012, I believe. He came in. He was kind of a player's coach, kind of let Stafford, you're the engine to this. You're going to be the show. Practice was an hour and a half. There's no, things that we're going to redo. We're just going to get in and get out. And I love that process. And defensively, I've had Bill Belichick, very tedious, very minute. You're going every detail, every single thing, situations, all of that. And I think there's good things to both. I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way. I think it's going to have to mesh with your stars players on both sides of the football. Offensively, guys like Ronnie Stanley, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, getting to know Declan really well, as well as understanding Minter's plan on offense. Defensively, Kyle Hamilton, Travis Jones, and Roquan Smith. They're going to be able to lead the ship how Jesse Minters envisions this defense. They're going to have to play at high levels, especially when it matters, and then to be able to show the young guys how it needs to be done with a process that Minter lays out for him, because I really believe he's going to be a good communicator. He's shown that. Derwin James really been high on him. I'm excited to see the plan and see it be executed at a high level with those guys, because those guys are all superstars at their position. I think they're contenders right away. There's no doubt about that.
I can feel your excitement over what Minter means for the Ravens. You're obviously a free agent. You're going to have some options. I can feel your excitement, though.
Yeah.
From a player standpoint, the thing I keep hearing is that sometimes you just need a new voice. And I've never really understood that. So explain it to me, because things didn't go the way that anybody thought it would last year. Harbaugh immediately became this wildly popular candidate for everybody else. The Giants are excited to have him. Why did that voice get stale where you were?
I can't say stale. That would be kind of disrespectful. I just think when you look at what transpired, you go back 23, you're in the AFC Championship, high expectations. I believe we were the best team that year. We lost in the last game, 3 turnovers. Then you go to 24, same thing, divisional round, 3 turnovers again, Buffalo. And we're in all of those games, right? If somebody has 3 turnovers in a game, they're getting absolutely dog walked out of the park. It's not even close. I mean, look at Seattle and the Super Bowl. They had two turnovers and it wasn't even close. Realistically, obviously, the fourth quarter, kind of similar to Kansas City when they were playing Philly, where they were, getting a lot of yards and scoring a couple bombs. That can happen, but it wasn't close when you really watched the tape. It was a whooping, and going back to us. Sorry, I'm getting a little off topic. All I'm saying is we were going backwards, and we didn't even make the playoffs this last season. And I think, as management, you got to look at that. Why do you go from, an AFC championship to a divisional round and then not even making the playoffs? So you got to look at that. And so I don't necessarily think stale is the right word. I just think a new guard needed to happen, not from anybody but the top. The top made that decision, and that's what happened. Harbaugh is now, big money bags in New York. I think he's going to do a good job. I think he's got a good unit in Jackson Dart and that defense with Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns shoring up that defense. But Minter coming in, he has that same mindset that Mike McDonald has done in Seattle, came from that same system, the same split safety tree. They feed off each other. You can tell they run a very, very similar defense. They do a lot of similar things. So that's why I'm excited, because that focus goes back to that 23, and they're going to have to get guys on both sides of the trenches to really shore that up. They need to have a better O-line play to protect Lamar. I mean, doesn't matter for Derrick Henry. He's going to get them yards no matter what. But we need a better protection for Lamar, and we need a better play defensive line from us, too. I mean, losing Nnamdi Madubuike was tough last year.
I hear your passion, and it sounds like love for the Ravens organization. You've been in Baltimore for the last 3 seasons, but you're a free agent this offseason.
Yeah.
Are you coming back to the NFL next year? Do you want to come back to the NFL? And if so, where do you want to be?
That's a great question too. I mean, honestly, I just love football. I like talking football with anybody. The passion's there. I always enjoy it. Just when like fans are coming up and just asking me who should I start in fantasy, I'm like, I have no opinion, but you should go with that guy. I like him. Or just different things. Fans asking wild questions of who do you think? I think a fan asked me about Bo Nix last week, and I was like, I think he has potential. I mean, it sucks. He broke his ankle the week before the AFC Championship, so we'll never know what that would have been like with him, and that sucks, and felt bad for him in that situation. But just different conversations. I love talking football. Ravens, though, I really love. It starts with Mr. Bisciotti. I think he's a hell of an owner. And then throughout the front office, you guys got guys like Mark Azevedo and Eric DeCosta. They've been really good to me. And so the people behind the scenes too, Meg, who kind of runs the show behind the scenes, she is awesome. You know, the people that work at the hub, which is the equipment staff, the trainers, Scott Elliott, who's the strength coach, just people like that all over the building. I just have so much love, and I love playing for those people, because that's what matters behind the scenes, when you get to know people and, you know, you're able to, you know, help them get another check to when you get in the playoffs and you establish relationships like that. It means a lot. And then to be living in the city, I lived in the city, and to represent that charm and that attitude of a city, there's nothing but love with Baltimore.
So you had the incredible joy of playing football with Stafford, Brady, Lamar. Like, we're not talking about scrubs nobody's ever heard of. You played with future Hall of Famers all over the place.
Yeah.
Having seen them in practice every day, like, what's the common thread? What do you see when you see some of these quarterbacks that all of them seem to have?
Yeah, I think what oozes off of them is the love for the game and competition. They all three are competitive, all three in different ways. You know, Tom Brady, you know, the competitive where it wasn't fun. It wasn't games out there. You know, he's mentioned in different interviews where he wished he had more fun like Patrick Mahomes. That is true. Like, it was a tight ship. There was no smiling. It was straight serial killer out on the field. Matthew Stafford, the silent assassin, he's going to do the no looks. He's going to try him out in practice, see if he's looking this way and throws it that way. And he's going to get it by you and do it with a smile and a wink. Just that aura he's got. And then Lamar Jackson, he does it with a fun level, this aura of fun and just enjoyment when he's out there, that when he's out there, nothing else matters except enjoying every time you're able to throw the football or run by guys, laughing at him, his awesome laugh, his infectious laugh. So those three, they're all different in the love, passion, and competition, and just competitor. They're all three different, but they all have that same, they're under the same umbrella, which is, you know, the trying to get to that GOAT status.
It is such an infectious laugh. Anytime I listen to Lamar Jackson in press conferences or interviews and he's getting tickled, I can't help but laugh right there with him. You know, you bring up your time with Brady. You've won 2 Super Bowls in your career. What do you feel like is a non-negotiable part of a Super Bowl DNA?
That is a great question too. A non-negotiable's got to be, you know, everybody's got to be all in. And that means from the last guy on the team to make the 53 to your number one player being the quarterback. Everybody's got to be in line to win that Super Bowl. And that comes with sacrifice of time, sacrifice with family, sacrifice with your body. Everything you can imagine needs to be aligned with winning the Super Bowl. I mean, yes, coaches do help. Coaches definitely get you prepared and get you scheme. But honestly, it should be players. Players should all galvanize together, really, really, you know, go into the season saying, hey, like, we're doing whatever it takes this year. We're hanging out extra. And I know, you know, and not today age, that's a little bit harder than others. Like, you got to hang out with each other. You know, you got to do all those things on and off the field to exude and just have that mindset of a champion. And you can't just talk about it. You got to be about it too. You can't just envision it. You got to actually put in the work. And it's not just hard work. There's a lot of people that work hard. There's, you know, people out there working 2 and 3 jobs, working hard, that deserve a lot. But it's how you work. It's the smart work. It's the progressive work. It's all those little details that you got to do. It's the smart things to push you forward.
Kyle, we could talk to you all day, man. Your energy is infectious. It's just
Let's
awesome,
go.
dude. Hey,
I got
best
it
of
off
luck,
you,
man.
so let's go.
Look, number one, if you want to play this year, I hope you go out and have the most kick-ass year you've ever had playing football. Number two, if you don't want to play, I hope that you realize that the time that you've been on a field has impacted so many of us. It's a joy to get to watch you do what you do, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. You got to come back, hang out with us again. We got to have you back. But we just love your work and just love the fact that you gave us some time this morning.
Yeah, thank you. No, I love that. I appreciate it. You started off with the juice, and then we had some great questions. I was like, ooh, I felt like I was in a test there for a little bit. I was starting to sweat. But thank you guys
straight
for
back
your
to
time.
the combine days.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you so much, Kyle.
Thanks.
Appreciate you, bud.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for hanging out
Kyle.
with us. Great stuff from Kyle. Coming up, from one champion to another, Uconn out there reminding us why Uconn's Uconn. We'll tell you about it next.
Peterson looked like the clear-cut number 1 pick in the first half of that game. He looked like the clear-cut number 1 pick. The fluidity on the floor, the ease in which he moved off ball defensively, creating havoc. He looked majestic.
Sometimes it just comes down to as simple as like, this dude moves the way basketball players are born to move. Was Kevin Durant the last college scorer that made it look as effortless?
Did you go to the casino after the fight?
Hell yeah.
How'd you do?
We're up.
Up?
We're up.
Well
Yeah,
done.
we're up.
Were you just walking around there after the fight and people recognizing you? Like, weren't you the guy that was just on the UFC?
Yeah, that's where I get recognized the most.
Really?
The other
say?
gambling legends, everyone recognizes me there. Anywhere else I go, no one knows me. But if I go there, everyone points me out.
The 72 Dolphins is infamously the no-name defense. This one's the too many name defense.
Too many names, yeah.
Too many names.
Defenses were ahead of offenses this season for a lot of it. Like, the best teams in the NFL had the best defenses. We're sitting here talking about this defense and how good it was and how hard it is to isolate one player. And yeah, that's the sport of football. It's a team sport. It's hard to isolate individual players, and Seattle really exemplified that all year.
We're ranking the actual threats from the absolute frauds.
Your contenders, who do you got?
My contenders. So I have Sporting, and I say that because they have had a strong top 8 finish over some other heavyweight teams. They're actually very, very hard to break down as a squad, and they're very, very strong in transition.
And they got a guy named Luis Suarez, which is fun.
Guard your ears.
That's probably only happened to me 2 times in my career. Once was my first year at Kentucky when we went into Fog Allen at Kansas, but I was playing with very much an inferior team and some walk-ons, not with this type of team. So it's all on me. I'm very disappointed in our performance offensively, especially of sharing the ball, moving the ball. So it's all on me.
That is just a little bit of Patino after falling, and this is not a misprint. 72-40 in my backyard right here to Uconn. As he says, it's all on me. Very disappointed in our performance, offensive especially. For context, for anyone that didn't see it, St. John's missed their final 24 shots. The final 24 shots that they took were all misses. So you see it right there. Their last made field goal came with 17-28 in the second half. You are not just talking about a butt whooping, Caroline. You're talking about a straight up behind the barn ass kicking, and a reminder that at their best, man, these two teams are very different conversations. At their best, St. John's is a very good basketball team. At UConn's best, they're a national championship contender.
I will just say I have never been happier to not be at a St. John's men's basketball practice than I am not being there today, because Rick Pitino sounded pissed in that media scrimmage post game. And I just know that they're going to be running suicide, 6 a.m. lift, whatever it's going to be, that this team is going to hear the wrath from Rick Pitino if they haven't already last night after that loss. Look, it was a brutal loss. It was ugly. It was bad. And to your point, I think we all view UConn's ceiling higher than St. John's. Whether that's fair, not fair, or indifferent, I at least view UConn's ceiling as higher than St. John's. I still think that St. John's is a good basketball team that can win games in the NCAA tournament and can go far in the NCAA tournament. Last night was brutal. Last night was rough. Sometimes those losses happen, though, and it falls on the coach and it falls on the team and how they want to respond to it. If I want to move over to the women's side of things, last year, South Carolina and UConn played in the middle of February, and South Carolina lost by 30 points at home. South Carolina doesn't lose at Colonial Life Arena, much less by 30 points. Then South Carolina didn't lose a single game the rest of the season until they eventually again lost to UConn in the national championship game. It was that moment, that game, that was a pivotal point in Dawn Staley and that South Carolina team season. They said we can either just crumble in that or we can overcome that. We can use that as motivation and a lesson for what we need to do to get better as a basketball team. And they did. That's good coaching. That's good coaching to be able to keep your team focused and learn from a loss rather than be overcome by a loss. So now I think this falls on Rick Pitino. You got embarrassed. You got your butts whooped in a game that everyone was watching. What are you going to do to make sure that your team doesn't succumb to the pressure and succumb to the embarrassment that comes from getting your butts absolutely kicked by a team in UConn?
Well, and I think part of that, I'm going to apply your exact same logic to the version of UConn that they got. UConn had lost a couple of games, which is unusual for them. They actually lost 2 over 4, which is really rare. One of those was to St. John's. They lost by 9 to St. John's at St. John's. So you've got an angry version of UConn. They also lost to Creighton. For whatever reason, Creighton seems to have UConn's number once a year. They always do this. But they lose to Creighton in this process. UConn, I think you saw a bit of Hurley getting into their butts the same way that you would expect Pitino will now be getting into St. John's. And that's why you saw that version of it. There's so much. I hate just relying on the crutch of championship DNA, but that's also real. Like, there is just a moment here where this UConn team has a bunch of guys that have won a bunch of basketball games over and over and over again. They have enough size. They've got perimeter play and solo ball that I think could be even better going into the tournament. Like, this is a tournament-built team. And certainly while we've spent much of the year, rightfully so, talking about Duke and Michigan and Arizona, who earlier this year beat Connecticut, this is a 26-3 UConn team that's won 2 of the last 3 national championships. So I kept watching it last night, and I was like, yeah, this is that reset reminder. Once or twice a year, we get cute with everything else, and we forget about some things that are right in front of us. And I think sometimes, just like maybe we talked yesterday, maybe we haven't necessarily given Duke as much attention as we usually would because we have been focused on other things. Like right now, if I had to trust Houston as much as I love Houston, if I had to trust Houston or UConn to win a championship, this is still a Hurley team with a bunch of players that have won championships, with a bunch of players that have won a lot of games, that have been essentially sitting around bored waiting to get through the Big East to get to actual basketball that matters. I think this is a sign of things to come for what UConn's about to do to a bunch of teams on the court.
Excuse me, terrible timing.
I picked
to
the perfect
have to
time.
sneeze
That was
there.
perfect time. Now give me your exact thoughts. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry that I was just off camera for so long and that I had to sneeze right at the moment that you finished your thought. Apologies to everybody involved. But I think that's a very fair point. As much as this loss can be viewed as an indictment on St. John's, totally and completely fair. How much of that game last night, how much of that performance last night, how much of that defensive performance last night was kind of I feel weird saying this, a national coming out party for UConn. Look, UConn's going to be squarely on everyone's radar because of who their coach is and the fact that they won back-to-back national championships not too long ago. But we're a what have you done for me lately society. And UConn hasn't won championships for us lately. It's fine if you want to win back-to-back championships. If you're not consistently there at the top of the teams that are in the conversation, then you'll just kind of just go by the wayside. Maybe in a weird way, like you said about Duke, which was weird that it felt like we were under talking about Duke, which is so strange that Duke's not getting talked about enough. Maybe UConn falls in that same boat. And maybe a game like that last night, a performance like that last night is what UConn needed to be like, no, you forgot about us. We were off your radar. We belong back on it.
Yeah, by the way, 5 players averaging double-digit points. They don't have they don't have an AJ DeMonson. They don't have a Carlos Boozer. They just got 5 guys that beat you over and over and over again. Not the only basketball news, by the way, that's on the radar for us is we got some interesting news in the NBA yesterday. Suns owner Matt Ishbia, a former Michigan State guy, wants the Stars to participate in the dunk contest and the three-point contest. And so he's willing to put his money where his mouth is. He's willing to offer $1 million to the 2027 Slam Dunk and three-point contest winners, that via the Pat McAfee show. So a big moment for an owner that, number one, now that the Suns are a little bit better than expected, he's certainly clapping back to many people on social media. Ishbia, he's walking his swaggy walk. Didn't hear a lot from him last year. But on top of that, now he's coming in and saying, hey, with the All-Star game coming to Phoenix next year, I'll put my own cash on the line if that's what it takes to get the Stars out. I kind of love this.
I love it. I love a rich owner using his power for good and not for evil. Cough, cough, Steve Ballmer. I love this. And we even talked about this when we were trying to fix the All-Star game and we really loved this format of the All-Star game, but we thought the dunk contest and the three-point contest, it feels broken. Nobody cares. Nobody's tuning in to watch this. So what can you do to attract more talent? What can you do to have more on the line? What can you do to just make this more interesting? Make it must-see TV for the first time in a long time? Well, I mean, I appreciate at least the effort to make the three-point contest and the dunk contest a little bit more interesting. Is $1 million gonna do it? In a league full of a bunch of rich dudes, I don't know, but I at least appreciate the effort and the sentiment. I believe the number that we threw out there was $20 million. I don't blame Matt Ishbia for not wanting to put $20 million on the line for this, but I at least do appreciate the effort to make Saturday night more interesting an All-Star weekend.
I just think every NBA owner could take a lesson from this. And yeah, you're right. Instead of 20, the number should be 30. Let every NBA owner skip their yacht maintenance for 1 month. Everybody puts $1 million per team. Okay, everybody puts $2 million. We go $60 million. We'll go straight up. I just like easy math. So everybody puts $1 million or $2 million in. Now we got the biggest prize in history for this every single year. It's like it's toilet paper money to the owners, and it makes the event more interesting. I'm just saying we're here fixing the NBA by spending their money. All right, from the NBA to Major League Baseball, the season is almost here. We'll preview it with somebody that knows better than anybody what to expect coming up next.
You covered Darnold with the Jets. Where are you kind of just feeling about him?
Another game with 3 games in a row, no turnovers for Sam. The sack avoidance night from Sam was incredible. The back and forth between Sam and Milton Williams was honestly really impressive for Sam on my part, because I thought that it wasn't his best game of the season, but it was the game he needed to have, which was clean. He won the Super Bowl. He's going to get a contract extension. It's kind of cool to see his redemption story.
What was it like being at MSG? Like in the back, the locker room, could you feel that it was a little different?
It's a total different experience from being there as a spectator to actually being there backstage and all of that stuff. Total different experience. I was so tuned into my fight. I don't even think I was looking at the referee. I'm just there, just looking down. I'm listening to what he's saying, but at the same time, I'm just thinking about the fight. I'm like, yeah, all right, y'all done? You ready? Right? Yeah. All right, it's time to go.
The Premier League has gotten so successful. Survival has become such a priority. Maybe that doesn't lead to the most entertaining football match.
The one thing that you want to avoid is having this like runaway
Yeah.
first place team by Boxing Day,
Yeah.
which happens more often than not. This has been, I would argue, a little bit more exciting this season. The entire mid-table is packed.
Yeah.
So
As an Everton fan, I'm like, yeah, we in the mix.
For Clippers fans, I just feel bad, Tom. I mean, I feel bad. It's always something with the Clippers. It's always something. And then, you know, the year begins and the whole aspiration thing, and then the team sucks. And then they start winning and they make a run and they're in the play-in and the playoffs are ahead. And then this all happens. This all happens. James Harden does it again. He asks for another trade.
Kevin Kiermaier says, to all 30 MLB teams out there, I'm being creative here, but just need to get the word out. I want to revolutionize outfield defense on many levels. No one loves this stuff like I do. I want to change players' lives and careers by maximizing defensive potential. My obsession. Let's go. Kevin joins us right now. You can see him. He'll be working with MLB Network some this season, appearing on all their shows throughout the year. We're thrilled to have you, man. So let me have it. Like, what's the creative plan? What are you proposing to the world?
Yeah, I'm just trying to tell these teams, let me show you the way to play defense. There's a certain code that I feel like I cracked throughout my career, that there's a way to train and prepare our bodies to perform out there on the field. And I'm not even talking about lifting or what you're doing the off season, more of like how we do drills and shag and batting practice and the way we throw, like having mental intent to elevate our game and take that next level. Like it's never been demanded of us. When I played for 15 years, and I said, if I ever had like the authority or the keys or the reins to show guys the way to do this, to maximize our potential. And if I was ever in that position when I retire, I want to do that. And so here I am trying to be creative with it. And trying to help these young guys. I was one of the best ever to do it, playing my position from a defensive standpoint. And it's one of those things like, why would you not want to hear what I have to say? I played it very well, but I can coach it very well at a high level as well. And I'm as confident with my defensive approach and all that is anything in life.
And it is a skill to not only be able to do it well, but to coach it well. Not everyone can do both, but Ryan Bass, friend of the program here, tweeted out that you have been working with Chandler Simpson, a young outfielder in the Rays organization. So what specifically have you been working on him with, and what have you seen from him that makes you believe that he can be a big-time contributor for Tampa?
Yeah, he's a great guy, great attitude, wants to get better. And for me, I just want to be around guys who are motivated and want to like elevate their game. And for him, just for the folks out there who don't know, he's the fastest man in baseball. I mean, he absolutely flies, steals all these bases, and he is electric when he gets on the bases. So for him, though, it's about translating his speed on the defensive side a little bit better, because it plays offensively. But now we're trying to maximize everything out there defensively, but just trying to switch his mindset. Like, hey, I know you've been here your whole life, but I want you to want to get better in this area as well. You're already doing amazing things offensively and on the bases, but if we can make you an above average defender, you just help yourself and your team, and you look so appealing to everybody when you're, that complete player. And for him, just trying to get his arm stronger, the way we do everything defensively, A to Z. It's one of those things I'm trying to break it down in like small little attention to detail is the big factor with guys like him who are so raw and have so much talent, who haven't really played out there a whole lot. He played infield for his whole life and been the outfield for a few years now. So just trying to take him through scenarios and prepare him and train him where we develop confidence and like a swagger out there where it's like, hey, when I got this glove on, I'm a bad man out here too. So just trying to positive reinforcement, but just show him the way that needs to be done.
You know the Rays incredibly well from your time with the organization. Tough few years, haven't made the playoffs since 2023. What do they need to do in your mind to be able to crack the code and break through in the AL East this year?
They need to stay healthy. That's one thing they've always battled, even when I was there all them years. And every team goes through that. But having Shane McClanahan back in that rotation from start to finish, hopefully he he can have a great bounce back year after not being here the last 2 years. But he is amazing, one of the most dominant pitchers I've ever played behind. So a healthy him will make them that much better. A couple free agent pickups like right there, Cedric Mullins, a lot of guys who are trying to bounce back and show that they're the players that they were not too long ago type of thing. But the AL East, it's going to be a beast once again. It's the best division in baseball once again. It's not going to be easy, but they got all the players to do it. I mean, Junior Caminero, Yandy Diaz, one of the best hitters I've ever seen. He's top 3 best ever right there. He's Mr. Consistent and always provides. So they got speed, power, guys who can hit, get on base, and create havoc. But for them, it's just going to come down to execution and competing at a high level throughout the course of 162 games. And that's why we show up and play.
You mentioned the AL East. That division is deep. It is competitive. It was, I think, the most fun division to watch in baseball this past season. You spent some time with the Blue Jays as well, and they were right there. They were knocking on the door of a championship. Just a couple plays here and there fall their way, and maybe be talking about them as reigning World Series champions. What does that team need to do to get right back in championship contention?
Yeah, same with them. They need to stay healthy. I mean, they had a huge offseason with some great pickups. But for them, like the year George Springer had last year, Vladdy's postseason, Ernie Clement, they have so many guys who can hurt you in so many ways. And their pitching, I mean, their rotation is nasty. Bullpen got plenty of nasty guys down there as well. So they're going to be able to pitch, play defense, and hit plenty. So it's just about staying the course and coming to compete just as they did last year. So once again, the AL East, man, it's going to be so much fun watching. Every team's going for it. I mean, Yankees had a great offseason as well with some big pickups, but that's the beauty of this division. You never get any easy matchups, any games. And that's why it's so fun to follow throughout the whole year, because there's so many ups and downs and people going first to second to third and kind of rotating. But boy, there's a lot of money in that division, a lot of talent, and it's going to be fun to watch.
What to me though, Kevin, it's always weird because the season's already such a marathon, right? So if you're the Blue Jays, you went through all this extra time. Now you got to get your body right, and you got to do the training things in the offseason. You're dealing with less time to do it. I realize nobody's crying for him, but I understand that. And you've got to deal with the emotions of coming off of losing the World Series that way. How hard is it for everybody in that organization to reset and even find a way to give a damn about spring training when you just went through what you went through in October?
Yeah, well, I promise you, people give a damn. They care, and it's so true. It gives you so much more extra motivation in the off season. You hear like the cliche stuff about that over and over, but it's how do you not think of it type of thing when you're working out or hitting or doing whatever you do. So I know them guys are motivated and ready to go and say, hey, like this wasn't a fluke. We're going to try to do the same thing this year, and we expect to be one of the best teams in baseball. So when you already have man 1 through 26 in the room already on the same page, you're like, hey, we accomplished a lot last year, but we're focused on this year and we want to do this again. We want to win it this time type of thing. We're very happy to be one of the last 2 teams standing, but we're not content with that. We want to have a World Series parade just like all the other 29 teams out there. But Toronto, a team who on paper is amazing, but once again, it comes down to execution, and if they can stay healthy and play to their potential, then they should be right back in the playoffs. But baseball doesn't work like that, so they got to go earn it, and it's not going to be an easy task. It's hard to win, man. It's hard to get that far and be that final team, and Dodgers were that team once again, and we'll see if someone can dethrone them from them being at the top.
Let's stick on that for a moment, because that's been, I think, the number one story of this offseason is the rich only get richer. The Dodgers can get every big money free agent. The Dodgers can outbid everyone. The Dodgers are ruining baseball. What do you say to people who think that, who do believe the Dodgers are ruining baseball?
Yeah, I disagree. I disagree. I love, this is a business, and they are thriving, and they found a way. Even, when I went there a couple years ago and I got traded there, like everyone's saying, oh yeah, you got to pay Ohtani $700 million and do this or that, or they're sitting here thinking like, people think that we're hurting because of that. Like, we've already made so much money because of him, and now we get him for the next 12 years, where it's like kind of like house money in a way. But everyone there, the method to the madness and the way they can, give out these big salaries and do things. They're just trying to put a great competitive team out there on the field, and all their years of being successful has allowed them to do this in today's world. And they're not breaking any rules. It's just, hey, we're gonna pay a lot. We're gonna do the luxury tax, whatever, but we're gonna still be in the green, and we're gonna come out on top, and we care about winning. And that's what you wish most teams would do. And there's a lot of other teams who are not spending like that, but trying to, winning is the focal point. And there's a lot of teams out there who already kind of know what it's going to be this year and go out there and do what you can. But I want, all the players and everyone wants to say, hey, like, spend money, do this, that, but let's make it competitive and let's make it as fun as possible. Like, we're competing at a high level and doing what we got to do to put out a great team. And other teams could do the same. It's just the level. Do teams want to do that? Right now, or the last however many years, no one wants it as bad as the Dodgers. And once again, they're doing everything that other teams could do. So it's not unfair. It's everything, anything is possible. And they've definitely cracked the code, and they've found a great system to bring in great players and win.
I mean, good or bad, right or wrong, much of this season's conversation isn't going to be about this season. It's going to be about whether or not there's going to be baseball next season. How much are players thinking about next year right now?
Yeah, that's it. I'm going to stay in my lane on that, because now that I'm retired and removed, I'm not a part of the emails or the calls anymore. So, and I got 3 kids at home, so I'm not talking to the guys enough to know like what's real and what's not. But I know there's chatter about it, and just from like all the media and everyone, it definitely seems like a possibility. And I know no player wants to sit out by any means, and you gotta stand your ground. And I mean, this is the business side that can get very ugly, but guys do not want to waste the year or miss out. I know the owners don't as well, but hopefully they can come to an agreement and figure some stuff out, because a year without baseball would just not be good on so many different levels. But once again, this is the business side of the game, and it'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. But guys are going to sit here and focus on 2026. But once October comes around and you're sitting here thinking like, man, what is the thrill of the unknown is it's a thing. So 6-7 months from now, going to be very interesting to see what the chatter's about.
I mean, look, selfishly, I just am going to be bored in 2027 if we don't have baseball. So like I want players to play, I want everyone to get paid, but I also want to go to baseball games in 2027. I want a social calendar.
Exactly.
And as we look ahead to spring training in this upcoming season, what are some names of some guys that we can keep a lookout for that remind you of your style of play, that remind you of you?
Oh man, off the top of the head, this guy named, I was a great defender and very average, maybe slightly below average offensive player. But guys, we're just going to say more glove dominant. A guy named Victor Scott for the Cardinals, nasty center fielder. I haven't watched him a ton, but he is incredible. I was going to say Pete Crow Armstrong, because what he does defensively is incredible, but how he played offensively last year, he has put him in that upper echelon category. Denzel Clark from the Las Vegas A's or
Sacramento A's for now. But
wherever they are.
I didn't mean to do that. Denzel Clark, some of the catches he made last year were incredible. This guy named Jacob Young for the Nationals is tremendous as well, climbing the walls, doing all sorts of stuff. So I try to tell guys, hey man, you can play a long time if you are a professional and handle yourself and can go play some defense out there, because pitching is so nasty now, where I'm like, hey, defense is going to be valued more and more every year, because pitchers are everyone's throwing 100 and spinning the ball like crazy, doing all sorts of stuff. So if you can play defense and that can never slump, and you can have a good arm and go get them, then learn from me. You can make a career in it, and just got to compete your butt off and just do what you got to do offensively to try to compete against all these nasty guys. But defense matters, and I'm very biased towards that.
Okay, so look back at your playing career. Who were some of the teammates that you had that really pushed you towards that mindset of defense matters?
It was me more than anything, to be honest, because I knew what I had to do, and it wasn't like I had teammates saying, "Hey, man, you got to do this or that." Like for me, I was always a great defender coming up, and I just felt like I was the best, even in the minor leagues. And I'm like, man, I just got to get to the big leagues to show everybody what I can do. But for me, it was like, hey, we got to sit here and hit and become the offensive player that we're trying to be, because I can play defense and run the bases with anyone, but you got to be able to hit and go up there and compete day in, day out. So that's, once again, I knew what I had to do, and I found an obsession with it where I'm like, man, I'm not the best offensive player, but I truly think I'm the best defensive player, and I control that reputation. I control if I feel like other guys are better than me. So I just tried being elite at every possible thing, going in, back, left, right, my arm strength, arm accuracy, like everything I wanted to be the best at. And I took offense to it when other people thought they were better than me or could do more things than me. But that was like the chip I had on my shoulder and the competitive drive that allowed me to have the success that I did. But you got to be like a psycho or obsessed, and like you got to be messed up to be good in baseball in so many ways. And I definitely like cross off all the messed up things, but just like my ADHD and way that I just was always, I could never turn it off, and I was just always doing stuff throughout all off season, during the season, to try to stay like athletic as I could, where I'm like, I don't want anyone to catch up to me, or I want to be in this elite category for as long as I can.
Well, that's part of what made you a great baseball player. It's part of what can make you a great coach, and it's going to make you great on MLB Network, man. We appreciate your time, Kevin. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Congrats on all the success. Thanks for the insights, and enjoy this season. It's going to be a wild one.
Yes, it is. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on. Take care.
Great stuff. Thanks, Kevin. As we cannot wait for this season. In the meantime, we are in the middle of hockey season. They are finally back underway post-Olympics, and the staggering news on Crosby could change the future of the Olympics for everybody. We'll tell you about it next.
Who's the dream fight? Like, who's the final boss for you?
Naoya Inoue.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I feel like he's the guy.
What a freaking fight that would be.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
How far away do you think you are from this, like, maybe being a thing?
I would say maybe a year.
Yeah.
Maybe just a year away. Yeah, it's
the
right
dream
there.
to try to, like, get more belts so that entices him to come after you? Okay.
100%. He's going to get a wake-up call fighting a guy like me.
And Kenneth Walker wins Super Bowl MVP.
The way he's kind of molded his game to work for him has been fun, because it's such a hard turn from where he started. Sometimes it feels like even a more dramatic version of like how Le'Veon Bell used to run the ball, how Le'Veon would stop and wait and see things open. But Le'Veon, like, he was hugging the ass of his centers and his guards. Kenneth is like, he's like step back so he can see the whole picture open up. And then when it hits, he's off.
The Sixers, to me, are the biggest loser of the trade deadline. You get these middling picks for Jared McCain, one of your most promising young players, to duck the tax. Just a joke. If I'm a Sixers fan, I'm infuriated. The Sixers, losers this trade deadline. It's just so disappointing for Philadelphia, man.
Who in college football could experience that same level of redemption arc? And I was thinking, we've actually kind of seen it a little bit in the past. I'd say Jaden Daniels did. Remember when his teammates were like throwing his things out of his locker and talking trash about him when he left Arizona State, and then he goes and wins the Heisman at LSU?
It was a little bit of a turnaround. I wonder what those guys are doing now.
Sidney Crosby is expected to miss at least 4 weeks with the lower body injury coming out of the Olympics, according to the Penguins. This is a worst-case scenario, obviously, for Pittsburgh. It's not a great scenario for basically everybody that's fought for inclusion in the Olympics of NHL players. Remember, what we are saying here is at least 4 weeks. We never know in hockey. This is not anyone that's ever covered the sport will tell you it's impossible to get information on any of these. You can be in the locker room every day, as I have been, and still not know what's actually hurt. But we know it's a lower leg injury. He's been placed on injured reserve. Caroline, it's a disaster because he's a huge name. It's a disaster because it will absolutely impact the Penguins going down the stretch. And as has been repeatedly reported, I think there's 401 NHL games over the next 54 days. It's a truncated schedule because of the Olympics. So you're going to have more and you have less depth for the Penguins. This is a worst-case scenario.
Is it worst-case scenario? Like, for all we know, this could be an ingrown toenail. It's probably not, but like, I can't say that this is a disaster. Oh my gosh, it's the end of the NHL as we know it. This is not worst case scenario. Does it suck? 1,000%. We're talking about Sidney Crosby here, okay? He's leading the Penguins in points. He's leading the Penguins in goals, and it's really not even that close. So is it great? Of course not. You don't want to see anyone injured, especially not Sid the Kid, one of the biggest stars that we have in the National Hockey League. He's out for 4 weeks. Like, he'll be back for the postseason. He was dressed for the gold medal game. I didn't know if he had any intention of playing, but it's not like Sidney Crosby was sitting in a hospital bed nursing some season-ending injury. So I don't think that this is worst-case scenario. I don't think that this is a disaster scenario. It sucks. It's bad. You hate to see any guy get hurt. But he's got to be back for the postseason from everything that we know right now. Of course, we know that injuries can be tricky. Injuries can be unpredictable, especially when we don't even really know what the injury is. It's going to be fine. The Penguins are in a playoff spot. You still have Monken. You still have Manta. If the Penguins totally slip up and don't win a single game from here on out and they fall out of a playoff spot and they can't win without Sidney Crosby, well, that sounds like a much bigger Penguins problem than it sounds like an NHL problem.
See, I hear you, but the Penguins didn't bring this problem on themselves. That's the hard part about this is like the Penguins, all the Penguins did was give in to the guys and say, okay, if this is really what you want, then this is what we'll make sure happens. But right now, as we sit, I mean, in the East overall, I'm looking it up, the Penguins are 6th in the East. So is there wiggle room? Yeah, but is there a ton of wiggle room for them to be where they want to be? Not really. Like, this gets complicated for Pittsburgh. Look, I don't think that they're suddenly going to miss the playoffs. They're not just a one-man team. I hear you on that. But if somehow they do, man, now an entire season was lost because Crosby wanted to play in the Olympics. And, like, I get it that's far more, like, I understand. Now I sound like the one guy in the world that's anti-Olympic hockey. I am not, to go full Tim Kawakami. Don't aggregate me. But at the end of the day, like, I do think you're right. Like, look, it's not Connor McDavid. It's not Austin Matthews. It is still Sidney Crosby. And so it is the most important player on a team that is at least fighting for playoff positioning. So if I'm a Penguins fan, I am wildly angry about this right now because through all of it, like, okay, great. Like, he went and he even tried, according to reports, he was trying to play in that gold medal game. At what cost? Like, we always say, like, you got to save the players from themselves. If this entire Penguins season is deeply impacted for a gold medal game that had nothing to do with the Pittsburgh Penguins, if I owned the Penguins or if I was a fan of the Penguins, I'd be pissed off for a long time.
And if Sidney Crosby got hurt on a Thursday, fans would say no more games on Thursdays. Like, Sidney Crosby could have gotten hurt getting out of bed in the morning. Sidney Crosby could have gotten hurt wearing a Pittsburgh Penguins uniform rather than a Team Canada uniform. We cannot eliminate the risk of injury entirely. Hockey's a tough sport, okay? Hockey's a really difficult sport. Guys are going to get injured and guys are going to get banged up. And I understand the sentiment and desire to eliminate risk as much as you possibly can. But you're not going to eliminate it entirely. You know, for all we know, Sidney Crosby could have been banged up going into the Olympics and just one tiny thing at the Olympics tweaked it just enough to keep him off the ice for 4 weeks. So I understand Penguins fans that are upset, that are frustrated, that, man, we're not going to have him and we didn't even lose him when he was playing for our team. I get it. It's not a good thing. anyone getting injured is never going to be a good thing for anyone, except maybe some other teams that are in the East that are vying for postseason contention. I just think it's overly dramatic, and I think it's overly reactive to one injury that's going to leave him out for a month to say that this is some massive indictment on the Olympics. Like, if Sidney Crosby was out for the entirety of the season, knock on wood, don't want that for anybody. If we had Sidney Crosby and Austin Matthews and Brady Tkachuk and Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, insert massive superstars in the National Hockey League here, if all of those guys got banged up in the Olympics, and I could say, okay, yeah, you know what? Like, these games are so physical and so contentious in the Olympics, and now we have an NHL that is barren because of the level of physicality that happens in the Olympic Games. Then, okay, maybe fine, I could entertain this conversation. But as far as we know, it's just Sidney Crosby. And it is a Sidney Crosby injury that will leave him sidelined just for the next 4 weeks, but back for the postseason. It's bad, yes, but let's not get ahead of our skis here, people. Like, if the anti-Olympic hockey people are going to use this as a bargaining token moving forward, I think it's a weak bargaining token.
My clapback to that is that the Olympics is no more significant to the NHL. We don't know. Everybody says growth of the sport, growth of the sport, growth of the sport. We have yet to find a single metric that actually shows any provable growth of the sport from the Olympics. We don't know. So if the growth of the sport is the argument, we don't know that. So to me, the Olympics is no more significant to the NHL, honestly, than the flag football event happening in March in Saudi Arabia is to the NFL. That event is going to include, according to reports, Saquon Barkley, CeeDee Lamb, Christian McCaffrey. If CeeDee Lamb, God forbid, gets hurt playing flag football and misses the first month of the NFL season, are we going to treat it the same? Because it's no different to the NFL. Like, the NFL is doing this for global growth of the game in Saudi Arabia. That's why the Fanatics Flag Football Classic is supposed to be for global growth of the game, and that's why they're doing the event. But either way, like, the NHL does not profit. They don't make money from. They don't have an affiliation with the Olympics. They collectively bargain to shut their league down to let players go participate in the Olympics because that's what the players want. If a bunch of NFL players go to Saudi Arabia, but only one of them, Saquon, let's say Saquon misses the first month of the season, are we okay with that? Because to me, the flag football in Saudi Arabia is to the NFL what the Olympics are to the NHL until we see some
No, it's
data
not.
How?
No, it is not. We love our friends over at Fanatics, but let's not act like a flag football game in Saudi Arabia has the same impact for the NFL that the Olympics does. We're talking about the Olympics, the pinnacle of sport, a thing that you can, the best of what they do get to participate in. The flag football game in Saudi Arabia is like a fun way to make money and a fun way to bring the popularity of football over to different countries. Like, we're talking about the Olympics, a gold medal, global stage. The gold medal game on the men's side was one of the most watched hockey games in the history of the sport. It is not the same thing. And sure, Pittsburgh Penguins ownership is probably so annoyed at the Olympics for knocking out its star player for the next 4 weeks. But it's like, we cannot act like the risk versus reward factor in the Olympics is even in the same stratosphere as a flag football game.
The Olympics in 2010 gave us 27.6 million viewers, 27.6 in 2010, third most watched hockey game ever in the United States. It resulted in no sustainable viewership increase for the NHL. Over the course of the season, they saw a small bump, about 5%. Four Nations resulted in a 5% bump that was temporary for the NHL. I hear you that we love the Olympics and we don't care about flag football. If I own the Penguins, though, the Olympics do me nothing. Other than national pride of the people watching it, for me as a business owner, for me as a franchise owner, it ain't changing my bottom line. So that's where it's the same. I understand that the cachet is different, but if it doesn't result in more viewers and I lose one of my biggest stars, I'm out on it. Plenty more that we will continue to break down from this because certainly the fallout is not going to be quick or easy. It will impact all other sports. We'll discuss that as the weeks go on. But we will be back tomorrow right here at 9 a.m. Eastern for more Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Come back, watch us tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with us today.